Следующий пункт повестки дня, это 8-й пункт, выступление представителей частного сектора. Мне приятно пригласить госпожу Санаубар Аюбову выступить с заявлением от имени частного сектора. Вам слово. Прошу.
Honorable Chairperson, distinguished delegates, esteemed guests, it is a great honor for me to take the floor on this opening day and to welcome you all to my homeland, Tajikistan. I am deeply grateful to the private sector consultation for entrusting me with the duty of delivering this opening statement as their spokesperson. I'm a co-founder of Lean Solutions company based in Tajikistan. Together with our team, we work across Central Asia, implementing best practices in manufacturing for heavy industry, pharmaceuticals, textiles, and agri-food systems. Our mission is to design projects along the entire value chain, integrating not only functions, but also interests of governments, international institutions, the private sector, and communities into scalable solutions. Success in Central Asia comes from resilience and long-term commitments. It requires a deep immersion into the culture and mentality of the region to truly understand that what sustains our societies is the density of trust between people, the networks they build across differences, the norms of reciprocity that emerge when communities know each other well enough to rely on one another, and the civic habits that quietly accumulate into a foundation a society can lean on. We are deeply concerned with the challenges of climate change, the ethics of doing business, conscious consumption, and the minimization of carbon footprint. I remember that over many years, despite the crises in our country, my father always placed sincere trust in the actions of our national leader, affirming that he is a leader of remarkable resilience and strategic vision. This is how trust works, and we can see that the sense of responsibility not only for his own nation, but also for humanity as a whole, is expressed in the long-term values he stands for, including on the international stage. The water agenda has become the calling card of Tajikistan. Policies addressing climate-related risks such as water scarcity, forest fires, dust and sandstorms are of paramount importance as they further deepen the vulnerability of agri-food systems through climate change, biodiversity loss, and land degradation. Agriculture is humanity's oldest activity and remains the most vital sector of any nation, even with the technological lead held by some over others. FAO, as an institutional organization in agriculture, has accumulated a vast knowledge throughout its history, which helps both farmers in Tajikistan and one in Sri Lanka to learn risks and opportunities. It is time to combine FAO's global expertise and convening role with the private sector's on-the-ground experience. The sector must better demonstrate its scalability and business value. Enough of isolated pilot projects. We need to move towards comprehensive, full-scale actions that encompass the interests of all market players and create socially sustainable, institutionally strengthening programs for the real economy. Agri-food challenges are no longer independent but interact with each other. The growing role of regenerative agriculture, tackling overproduction and introducing practices of responsible consumption. It is not enough to produce, it is equally important to distribute fairly and to maintain adequate stocks of key food commodities. A better understanding of labor dynamics with a strong focus on women's empowerment, particularly in dairy value chains, and addressing the challenges of finding a qualified workforce in agriculture. Young people need motivation to engage in this sector. Climate preservation is a concern on the global agenda for decades. Climate adaptation is impossible without financial transformation. This means that the financial architecture must evolve so that resilience becomes its core, not a separate segment. Mechanisms for insurance and overcoming the vulnerability of food systems must be prioritized. The fragmented structure of existing early warning and risk monitoring systems, data gaps, and the lack of disaggregated data, especially regarding vulnerable groups, stand out as a major barriers to resilience capacity. Working along the value chain, we inevitably confront raw material dependency. Let us contribute to the resilience of family farms and fields so that the number of supplies grows and agriculture transforms from a forced way of life into reliable investment capital. One form of capacity building can be decentralized engagement, improving access to markets and finance through stronger cooperative structures, inclusive multi-actor partnerships, delivering locally owned outcomes with particular emphasis on the central role of farmers, organizations, and cooperatives. This will also be crucial in clearly informing about risks linked to the rising production cost for farmers who remain vulnerable to disruption in key input market. The next challenge is ensuring the availability of sufficient data. Today, thanks to technology, we have all the tools for collecting and processing information to identify imbalances between food deficits and surpluses, as well as gaps in sectors requiring investment and special efforts. The challenge lies only in adapting these tools to local digital and infrastructural capacities. Innovative approaches achieve this by creating value for every link in the chain. As logisticians, lawyers, and buyers all emphasize, we must move towards a more flexible, incentive-based approach that better reflects market realities and stakeholder needs. Digitalization can become a key enabler, provided it is supported by the right incentives for farmer uptake, safeguards around data ownership, and growing attention to land governance. Here, an infinite variety of solutions opens up. Platforms for exchanging goods and services, green credits, trust funds. The private sector will scale them. What is needed are favorable conditions, institutional, infrastructural, policy, financial, quality standardization, and the promotion of organic practices to ensure food safety as the core area of collaboration. As a private sector, we stand behind three groups of strategic theses. First, responsible care and preservation of resources, natural assets and traditions while promoting climate resilient and low carbon practices. Second, from words to action, funding sources available for agriculture must be diversified and new models such as joint funds, pooled systems, green credits, and insurance should drive the transition towards more sustainable and lower carbon agri-food systems. And the third one, integrated digitalization, value flows shared among all stakeholders, woven into joint activity. My colleagues from the private sector will, throughout the conference, contribute their specific recommendations, reinforcing each other. For my part, I would simply like to wish everyone productive work. Хуш омадед, ассаламу алейкум.
Благодарю вас, госпожа Санаубар Аюбова.